You know how they say if fighter one beats fighter two, that means that fighter one should beat fighter three if fighter two has beat fighter three. If that didn't make sense, what I'm talking about is called MMA boxing math. It doesn't add up to anything correct. It's just a game that us fans like to talk about. We're like, oh, well, fighter A beat fighter B, and fighter B beat fighter C, therefore fighter A is going to beat fighter C. And that doesn't work out. Those are matchups. We need to think about it in a broader sense, that sometimes matchups and styles make or break fights. But what happens if you got three guys that aren't even in the same sport? How do you multiply, add, divide, subtract, pull the 6 to the 2 to the power of 8? How do we do that? How do we take three guys that could potentially fight? They probably won't. A lot of people hope they will. If you haven't realized, what I'm talking about is Jon Jones, Francis Ngannou, and Tyson Fury, and that little back and forth that's been going on, that's been rumbling on today. Not today, I don't know. However long it's been rumbling on for. We have Tyson Fury asking to fight someone. We have Francis Ngannou saying, I'll step up to the challenge. We have Francis and Jon arguing about who's on what side of the street, who's a better fighter, who's the baddest man on the planet. And we got Tyson Fury tweeting at Jon Jones, or not tweeting, but talking about Jon Jones. Talking about how put him in a room and Jon Jones won't come out alive. After Joe Rogan said if you put them in a room, Jon Jones is going to come out and Tyson Fury is going to be done. This is interesting. This is something that I actually really like. It brings attention to both sports. It brings attention to multiple leagues. So now UFC, PFL, and boxing. And it puts us in a potential spot where we could see some crazy super fights down the road. Bear in mind, I don't think Jon Jones is fighting anyone in anything else other than the octagon. Jon Jones is too good to potentially tarnish his legacy. He will not let himself lose a fight, even if it's boxing and even if it's against Tyson Fury. Whereas I think Francis Ngannou should step up to the plate. Tyson Fury says sign the contract. Ngannou's like, where's the contract? Now we're in this kind of typical boxing back and forth of sign the contract. Well, you never signed the contract. Yes, I did. You get this, you get that. Typical boxing talks. Fighters nowadays in boxing have come out and said, correct me if I'm wrong, Haney just said Floyd Mayweather potentially ruined boxing in terms of keeping that undefeated record. Whereas someone like Izzy lost his fight, came back and beat Pereira, and he's bigger than ever. And I don't think a loss should define you. Having a blemish on your record just means you have experience. Yeah, don't get me wrong, 50-0 looks good. Wouldn't want that. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's what should be driving you. It should be driving the competitive nature in you to want to beat the best, to want to challenge the best, to want to put yourself in a situation where you could lose, because if you do win, the outcomes are much greater than when you do lose. And I think this is where Francis Ngannou really has to push for this. With the PFL contract he just signed, he has the freedom to do whatever the hell he wants. I think he needs to make a push for some sort of boxing. He needs to do something different just to prove a point that we can do this and that we should be stepping out of our realm. Conor's the only guy that comes to mind that's really done this at a high level. Yes, UFC guys go to boxing all the time. You can see guys like Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren have gone and fought Jake Paul and have lost. But at the end of the day, they're still stepping up to the plate to fight. You could argue it's for money. You could argue it's not. I don't care. They're still stepping up at the end of the day to fight. And that just shows that boxing mentality is kind of skewed. It's kind of off. And don't get me wrong. Like I said, 50-0, 25-0, 5-0, 10-0, 20-0, whatever it is, having an O at the end of it is much better. You're an undefeated fighter fighting out of that sounds. How does that not sound good? You tell me. But you have to live with the fact that you're putting off potential generational fights, potential fights that you could talk to people about in the future, talk to your kids, talk to your grandkids about. Oh, I fought the best fighter 3 times. We went back and forth. I lost one, I won one, and then on the final one, I won again. I came out victorious. Those are stories you want to share. These are stories that the fans want to see. We don't want to see you fight trash cans just to get to 25-0. We've been robbed of way too many fights. Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Been robbed of that fight because it should have happened when they're both in their primes. Then we have fights like currently that aren't happening, like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. And now that doesn't seem like a good fight because Anthony Joshua is slowly tapering off to not be as dominant as he once was. And I'm not saying he's not good. He's not that dominant, scary force that people view him as. And I hope he does come back and become that because I want to see him fight Tyson Fury. I want to see him fight in the biggest arena in the UK. I want to see them go at it. And we've been robbed of way, way, way too many fights like that. And this is what I want. I want Francis to push for this. I want Francis to get this. I want these guys to step into these different realms. And I completely understand the boxer's perspective of, I don't want to go into a cage. What the hell do I know about being taken down, about jiu-jitsu, about grappling, about ground and pound, about kicks, about whatever it may be. But I want to see them also take the risk of bringing in someone like Francis Ngannou and potentially challenging him, knowing that you're probably going to win, but there is that chance that if he connects, he could win. And I'm not saying that Ngannou would beat Tyson Fury, but all I'm saying is that why wouldn't Tyson Fury or any other heavyweight boxer take that risk? I know I've said a lot. I know I've gone in different directions. I know we've talked about MMA guy fighting a boxing guy. I know I've talked about why we've been robbed of boxing fights. All I'm saying is that fans want to see specific things, and we're being robbed of these potential fights, super fights, whatever they may be, trilogies, quadrilogies like Moreno and Figueiredo that fought recently. We want these fights. You get these fights out, you're going to get asses in the seats, you're going to get money in your bank, and you're going to have happy customers, and you're going to grow your fan base. I think that something needs to happen, and I'm excited to see what does happen. So catch you guys next time.